Your Daily 180, 180 Seconds of Pure Bible Study.
Welcome to this, your Daily 180 Bible Study. We're so thrilled to have you with us today and appreciate you tuning in for this Bible study. We just finished up a study of James chapter 2, and we're going to do a follow-up study with that, a kind of a companion subject. We're going to be talking about the essentiality of obedience, because if you remember in James chapter 2, I want you to look at 3 verses to begin with. Verse number 17, thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Now that's an interesting word, and we saw, I said last week, actually we did 2 weeks on James chapter 2, we saw the idea that you don't define a word in context. And when we talk about works, we're talking about active. We're talking about being obedient. Whereas in Ephesians 2 and Romans 4, it talks about meritorious works. Here he says faith without works is dead. If you have faith without obedience, it's a non-existent faith. And then look down at verse number 20. But do you want to know, foolish man, that faith without works is dead? Here's the idea again. Faith without works is dead. In verse number 24, he says, we're not saved. Get this, we're not saved by faith alone. Isn't that interesting? The only time you find those words together in the New Testament, faith and alone, or faith only, is in James chapter 2, verse number 24. And there he says, we're not saved by faith only. And then in verse number 26, he says, for as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Now I want you to get this. Some people say, but I have great faith. Look at verse number 19. In verse number 19, he says, you believe that there is one God, you do well, even the demons believe and tremble. I want you to look over at Hebrews chapter 5 and verse number 9, and I want us to see what the text says, and then I want us to think about the implication of what it means if we do not have to have obedience. In Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8 says that Jesus learned obedience. In chapter 5, verse 9, it says, and having been perfected, he became the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him. Now, isn't that interesting? We have to obey Jesus. As a matter of fact, he says, the writer says, that Jesus is the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him. Now, I want you to think about this. If we buy into a doctrine that says we don't have to be obedient, but we can be saved, then we're, in essence, saying that we can be saved without Jesus being the author of our eternal salvation. You say that's ludicrous. And I say that's right. Join us again tomorrow for your Daily 180.